Welcome. Today I wanted to talk about 3 mindset shifts that are really important in terms of you moving through your grief as easily and quickly as possible. And that sounds like a bit of an oxymoron because grief is neither fast or easy. But we do have a tendency to make it harder than it needs to be. And these 3 shifts will help you with easing into it, if you will. So the first is to stop fighting it. We think grief is this horrible problem, and it does feel awful. I'm not saying it doesn't feel awful. But as I've said elsewhere, the real problem is that somebody died. And grief is really the mechanism through which we heal. And I have walked with enough people at this point to know that there is a path that people go through. It is unique. You have unique experiences. You experience it in different time frames. For some people it's very expanded. For other people it's very compact. And a lot depends on the nature of the death, what the relationship was, and that sort of thing. But what we tend to do, because it feels so bad and it feels so overwhelming, and we have no idea what to do with it, especially if this is our first experience of it, that we fight it. We think this is wrong, and there must be something wrong with me, and maybe if I just stay really busy, or if I'll just try to be strong. All of that stuff. And I'll add the other stuff that can go into it is this sense of this isn't fair, it shouldn't have happened. All of those sorts of railing against the death, that it happened, that it shouldn't have happened, and all of those things are what I mean by fighting your grief. So when you can stop fighting it, it allows you to be present to it. It allows you to engage it. It allows you to move through it, because that's what needs to happen. Grief is very fluid, and for me, the earmark of normal grief is that it's moving. It's very, very fluid. And all of those strategies to fight it create blocks to that movement. So stop fighting it. I know that's hard. Certainly we address this often in the group. I address it in early single session consults with people. Just naming it and encouraging them to stop fighting, surrender even, and just go where the grief takes them. The other thing I've really learned is grief is incredibly trustworthy, and there's a wisdom in it. And if we go where it takes us, where it leads us, we do a whole lot better. Everyone does a whole lot better. So that's one. Stop fighting it. Just stop. Please stop. I understand why, but please stop. The second thing that needs to happen that can really be helpful is to find hope in this situation. And I know that's hard. I know, in fact, quite impossible for many people early on. As the grief moves forward, it gets easier, but certainly early on it's hard. And the one thing that really makes a difference in terms of feeling hopeful is to surround yourself with people who have been through it and healed and can model for you that there is a healthy transition back into life. You're not going to be in this horror show forever. So you can find that all sorts of places. You may have friends who reach out, sometimes people you hardly know, but they know you're grieving and they've been through it and they will reach out. That happens pretty often. Or you have friends who have been through it who can model for you. But if you don't have those things, the other place you can get it is in a group. because groups tend to be a combination of people very early on to people even past the first year or even second year. And you can see the difference. The difference is dramatic if you look at that range. And you almost can't help but see people who are doing so much better and feel hopeful that if they could do it, you can do it too. So that is certainly finding those people. Now, the people I want you to avoid are the woe is me crowd. Never going to get over it. It's been 10 years and I'm still struggling and suffering. And oh, stop. Just stop. That's a choice. That is a choice. And it's an indication that people did not get adequate support. And unfortunately, I hear that coming from various groups. So be careful of choosing your groups. Make sure it's well facilitated and make sure that it's a hopeful crowd and not the woe is me crowd, because they're going to bring you down and they're not speaking the truth. They're speaking their truth so far. And could they stop suffering? Yeah, they could. But they don't know how. It's not their fault. They don't know how. But you certainly can get there. So the third thing is probably more appropriate for people who are toward the end of the first year into the second year, maybe even toward the end of the second year, when they're somehow waiting for the grief to be over to create their new life. And it doesn't really work like that. There isn't a finish line. There is not a finish line that we cross over and all of a sudden we're back to who we were. That's not going to happen. What happens is this gradual easing of the pain, easing of the grief. There's a phase of just kind of doing okay. You know, it's not that painful. It's just kind of okay. And then after that, some people kind of get stuck in that. But after that, there are ways of creating a new life that can fill you with real joy and be very happy. And they build on the foundation of the relationship you're grieving. So what's important to remember at that point is that you don't have to wait for the grief to be over to build the new life. You're building it little by little as you go along. You know, so I would encourage, you know, if you're at 9 months or 10 months and you have some thought about the future, something you'd like to do, explore it. You don't have to do it right now. You can do it when you're ready, but notice when you start thinking about that. And the lesson is you do not have to wait until your grief is over to do that. I think in many ways you will know when it's time and when you're ready. But don't ignore that because you're still grieving, is what I'm saying. Don't ignore the, what do I want to call them? The inklings. The inklings. I had a coach that used to call them inklings about the future, the intuitions about what you might want to do, or all those things. So give those things space and just realize that you don't have to wait. You build it as you're grieving. And building it as you're grieving helps to heal the grief. So they're playing off of each other. These plans for the future, dreams for the future, desires for the future, and being aware of the foundation and the relationship with the person who died, all of that feeds into the future. And as you begin to build that future, it heals the grief. Now, some people like to say that life kind of surrounds the grief and the grief doesn't really change. It's a theory. I don't subscribe to it. I don't think that's really true. I think it can be true for some people, but that has never been my experience. It's more active than that. It's more woven into your future life. Yes? So the three things are: stop fighting it, please. Find hopeful people. And that I don't mean the people who are like, hurry up and get over it. You're fine. You're doing so well. I don't mean those. No, not those people either. And understand that you can begin to build your life before the grief is over.